Speaker Therese.
She thought it was funny.
I don't know how you follow that. Good morning, Speaker of the Guam Legislature, Speaker Therese Terlaje. Good morning, Speaker.
Good morning, Chris and Sabrina and Jason. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I guess we'll just go ahead and start your reaction to the governor's State of the Island address at the Guam Legislature Monday evening.
Well, I thought it was optimistic. It was nice that she gave credit to some of the agencies and the people involved in the response to the pandemic. I think the people of Guam absolutely deserve a kudos for all of their support for the governor and all of the frontline personnel and for all our essential workers. They really did it. The people of Guam really did what they needed to do to bring these numbers down, and so I think we're all very, very grateful. I think the parts of the speech where she outlined her plans coming up, they were kind of they were great plans. They're very general, however, so I'm looking forward to seeing the details on them, especially the use of the $661 million. We haven't seen any details. And I just think, that's an unprecedented amount that's going to be in aid that's going to be given to a governor. And it's 661. It's, not that far off from the 780 million that we appropriated from the general fund in the last fiscal year. So that's what we're looking at. It's almost like an entire budget for the government of Guam. And I think it deserves some checks and balances. And so that's what I'm hoping that we as a legislature are going to be able to do. And of course, but the goals, if we're going to address poverty, I'm absolutely for that. I think we need to use that money and address some of these systemic issues so that moving forward, no matter how we move forward, that those issues, we're going to be able to, cure them as best as possible and build an economy, build our families, let them thrive, after solving those issues. Infrastructure to, especially water to Chamorro Land Trust properties for affordable housing, absolutely critical. I agree with that. The hospital, of course, I agree with that. And so it's just, again, it's the details. I think we need some oversight. I think, I'm looking to my colleagues in the legislature to do what we're supposed to do here in checks and balances. And I think if we can get transparency with this $661 million, that we can really do some very good things for Guam.
So 2 thumbs up for the speech?
That sounded more like a 1.5. 1 thumb up and 1 sideways. So classy. General plans lacking on the details. That's kind of what a lot of people took away from the speech, Madam Speaker. But I wanted to go back to this last year with the first round of the CARES Act funding. I mean, you guys were told stay in your lane, no supervisory, no oversight over this huge infusion of federal cash. And I know that we're trying to avoid the same thing in the second go around with the $661 million. But I wanted to ask, is this also a conversation that's being had in legislatures across the continental United States? Is there that struggle?
I'm sure it is, because many of them have tried to, put limits on the use of the funds or I'm talking about the other funds. So these are new funds. So they're all going to probably do what they can. But in some of those states, of course, the governors are just maybe more transparent, maybe, more cooperative. So we're hoping to get that here. We've seen in Hawaii that they absolutely, I've seen laws where they are dictating how the money will be spent. So I guess it just, the states are different, but of course, every legislature, I think, wants to make sure that procurement is done fairly. That's one thing, right? That we don't want a repeat of any unfair procurement. We want open procurement. We want to get value for our money. All of the values that are entrenched in the procurement law, we want those to be honored. Same thing with the open government law. We want those values to be honored and persist throughout the spending of the $661 million. I think if you, especially those two, if we, can ensure that, then that's going to go a long way.
It's a different set of circumstances now because we're in PCOR 3. We're not in the height of a public health emergency like we were last term. And so when you talk about value for the dollar and open government. One of the things that we had talked about last week, Bree, was the cost of the quarantine. Right? I mean, we're
The
in
quarantine and ISOFAC.
the quarantine, the ISOFAC. We're what, like 20 million in the hole with Cortec over this?
$20 million is still owed, and again, this is for even for inclusive of unoccupied rooms for the Bayview and the Ducet Outrigger and the Ducet Tower, and this was just within a 5-month time frame. At least that's the information that I asked for from Guam Homeland Security Civil Defense. So the numbers were from October to March 1st, and I did ask because this is supposed to be paid for with CARES Act funds.
Yes.
But according to DOA, there is no more CARES Act funds, at least from CARES 1. And I did follow up with Guam Homeland as to where we're going to get, the remaining 20. Or are we going to try and get it from the 661 million? So I didn't get a response. So I'm not sure. Maybe you know?
Well, no, I don't know the direct answer to that. I've asked the same questions. However, they did assure us that that is going to be FEMA reimbursable. So it's just a matter of, where are they going to pay it from and then seek reimbursement. So, it's a good question, Bree. I share those concerns.
There was during the oversight hearing, I think you were the one who mentioned it, that Public Health had informed the committee that they were looking for another location for the isolation facility. Have you received an update on when or if that is actually going to happen?
I actually thought that they had secured one, but found out, a little later that it wasn't secured yet. They were, finishing the procurement on it. But yes, they are absolutely going to be shifting. I think they're consolidating. That's one thing for sure. They're going to consolidate the isolation and the quarantine facilities into one. So I'm not sure if that's going to happen in the current facility or, it's going to be moved. But I do know that they're supposed to be doing RFPs and things like that.
I did want to get your reaction. I think we all kind of knew that it was coming, that the governor was going to veto Bill 11 regarding legislative approval, right, for public health emergencies beyond 90 days. But her veto message, it was pretty strongly worded. She said, let's not pretend Bill 11 is about a desire for legislative involvement or even transparency. We should recognize this bill for what it really is, an effort to dictate the terms and conditions of a public health emergency by a body that does not have supervision or control over the agencies responsible for doing the necessary work to respond to the emergency and keep our community safe. The bill is not an attempt to restore the separation of powers. It is an attempt to destroy it. As a member of the body that supported and voted in favor of this legislation, what is your response to that?
Well, I just think that they're mistaken in that, belief, because first of all, this bill could never impact her Organic Act powers. That's just simply impossible, legally and in every way impossible. So Organic Act powers for emergencies are always there for a governor. What this bill was attempting to impact is those health emergency powers that the legislature created and the legislature bestowed upon the governor. So for the legislature to come and finesse that, granting of power, or to put some conditions on it, or even just to say we want to review your renewal after 90 days is actually an expansion of powers from 30 to 90 days. So I think it's absolutely appropriate. I think if the legislature wants to do its role with checks and balances, then it's necessary. And I think, if we can, nothing in the bill says we are going to dictate how executive branch agencies respond or do anything. In fact, it didn't touch any of the public health powers in the act. It only touches that declaration or not. And that's all it says, is you just need a yes or no from the legislature, a consent or not. We do this with boards, which are much less, I would say, critical and but this is it's a critical response. It's critical to decide whether we are in an emergency or not. It's critical to bring the people of Guam along in that decision, I think. That if we can't explain it to the legislature, then we probably can't explain it to the people of Guam. And if you can explain it to the legislature, then you should trust that the legislature is going to act reasonably. I have never seen them not. And, the people of Guam, that's our check and balance. They would be clamoring on an irresponsible legislature. And I don't think that's what they're saying. I think the people of Guam, they want to see that too, that just all it takes is communication. If you've got information, then share it. And if you can do that, then we're all going to be convinced as equally as you are.
Do you guys have the votes for an override, you think? Have you heard?
I'm not sure. No.
I want to follow up also on the Department of Public Health, Art San Augustine, and whether or not he ever submitted that report on his findings of the investigation that he conducted into the allegations of impropriety among certain nurses that were over at the quarantine facility.
No, I don't have a formal report, but I did talk to him recently, and it seems to me that, the part I was very satisfied with is they're finally talking to more witnesses, and so that they're getting the full breadth of the real, scope of what the issues were there. And I do think they have taken some actions to address those. They've moved personnel, and they've also, I think, taken some actions against some personnel. I'm not sure, but those personnel actions, I don't know the details, and I don't want to know the details because those are personnel actions that have to take place, within the agency. But I am happy that it looks like they are aware now of all the allegations, that they are able to address those moving forward at the QFAC facilities. So I think that's very important. And I think that by doing that, they are going to restore the morale of the nurses that have been working, day and night up there.
Boy, this has really turned into something that they said it wasn't at the onset, as you remember. And I don't know, was it just is it dishonesty, or did the director misspeak, or was it kind of one of those things where he's like, oh, maybe it's this, and then they scratch a little more, and it's like, oh my God.
I think it's more that it's just kind of, they only hear a part of the story perhaps, and then when they start to hear what it's really all about, they understand it more, and they're able to dive deeper into it. But they are they told me too that they continue to wait for some timesheet review by DOA. But I think more importantly is that they're taking action. So I'm glad about that.
Another thing of Senator Joanne Brown, she's been on the show a few times, and one thing that she has mentioned is that she met with you along with Senator Terlaje, I want to say maybe before the inauguration, to talk about the establishment of a legislative committee on corruption, where, people who come to the legislature, to senators, they can vet these sorts of complaints or concerns. And so, I wanted to hear your side, if in fact that will actually occur or be established.
Well, I'm not going to promise that will be established as a separate committee. I think every committee of the legislature has a responsibility right now and a duty to investigate every agency within their oversight and to do what they can. And I'm going to use the judiciary as an example. They did not like that I was going to have an oversight, but I was very upfront with them. My oversight, as much as I want to, really get into every matter, it's very limited due to, other rules of, privacy, confidentiality, personnel law. And what we really need is for law enforcement to do its job and to when there are allegations of corruption, that we have, those promptly investigated. I think prompt investigation, announcement that they're going to do something about it is also very critical to gaining the public's trust. And so in one way or another, we would, we're getting these things at the legislature because it's looking like the law enforcement's not doing anything. I think if they would do that, that's really the best way for these things to be handled. You know, many uh, attorney general offices or district attorney offices have their own white collar investigation units and things like that, and that's really those people who are trained to do investigations can do these investigations. But as senators, I think we should always, take complaints and act on them as much as possible, refer them to law enforcement, and do what we can in our oversight to flush those things out if necessary, if it looks like no action is being done. But ultimately, if you want, the behavior or, if it really is corruption to be prosecuted, we need it to come from the Attorney General's office or GPD, law enforcement. But so I just think we all have to work together. We all have our role, and I think we should all embrace our role and do whatever we can, and we can do that in all our existing capacities.
Mm-hmm. I figured
I was
might.
very happy, by the way, on our last oversight that the Attorney General came out right before the hearing and finally responded to my letter asking whether he was going to do an investigation. So once he confirmed that yes, he would, I felt like, well, that's huge, for the Attorney General to confirm that. So they have the capacity to dig into personnel files and every file. So I'm hoping that that's going to give them a much broader scope than we were able to do in one oversight hearing.
I mean, it kind of seemed like Senator Pito was doing his own investigation during that oversight hearing.
Sure. I mean, senators, I'm not going to censor senators at an oversight hearing who want to ask questions of the agency. I think the questions themselves are good questions. The the fact that he has a family that, was, I don't know, I'm going to leave it to the judgment of the senators. We're all adults here and we have to use our own judgment. And so my philosophy is in an oversight hearing, almost all questions should be asked if those are, relative to the inquiry before us.
What I find interesting is that when we first heard about the airport investigation, you had the one airport police officer who was terminated, which then led to him filing an appeal, and the documents became public because of that. And then you heard and you read just how many people may allegedly, be involved. And then it turned into, the Port Authority, the Guam Power Authority. And yet we haven't seen one oversight hearing called. I mean, it seems, I don't want to say suspect, but I would think by now we would have seen somebody step up and say, yeah, we need to look into this. Let's hold an oversight, bring everybody to the table and find out what happened. Or, should we just kind of wait till the feds complete their investigation?
Well, not just the feds, but I think local law enforcement, they absolutely need to do investigation. You're talking about law enforcement agencies, right? A lot of those. And so they've got internal affairs divisions that better be looking into it. And what I'd like to see is some, affirmation by the Attorney General, whether they're looking into it, whether these are criminal actions or not, and if they're not, then what we're talking about is simply, not simply, but we're talking about, these personnel issues. Yeah, you're using government time to do this type of activity. That's wrong. We all know it. And the agency heads are all aware of it right now because of the, your work and the civil service documents. So every agency head, I just think they better be acting on it right now. And
when you say investigation, though, are you talking about administrative investigation, or are you talking about a criminal investigation? Just so we're clear, because GPD is like, we're doing an administrative investigation into a single officer, and so that's not a.
I think that's what one of the things they need to decide. If they decided to decline a criminal investigation, then we need to know why. Is it not a crime to gamble online, right? Or secondly, is it not fraud of your timesheets or something, right? To do that while claiming you're at work.
Yeah.
But but absolutely a civil or personnel investigation, because it's very clear if they were using their time to do that activity, that's a whole other, body of law that they should be acting on.
But
They have all the authority to do this, and I just think these things are being unraveled as we speak, and we've seen some action by some of these agencies. So I think that we just need to see all of them, step up. And you're right. I think if they don't do anything, then absolutely oversights are maybe necessary or
but I also feel like, Madam Speaker, when we have an instance like Art at Public Health telling people like, oh, there's nothing to this, it's, who's making the complaint? And then a month later, it's a full-blown, they're interviewing witnesses, they're doing timesheets. So that's why I'm just leery of kind of taking the agency's word for it. And I feel like when we had the chief of police on, his response was something along the lines of, I don't have the authority to go in and investigate other agencies' personnel based on what those personnel do on a personnel
administrative investigation.
Right. But I'm saying, like, if the Civil Service Commission documents are showing that people are doing this on the job and that people have lost their job, and we're seeing it across different agencies, then I want to say it would be GPD that would be in charge of doing a criminal investigation, because clearly the reach of this online gambling thing, and the reason why people are being alerted about it isn't that it's just online gambling, because I don't even know whether or not that's legal. It's that it's online, on the clock gambling.
Right. Online on the clock. That's why I think I've heard different agency, I think the airport, the port, they've all claimed that they are doing their own investigations. Isn't that correct? And so, that work, on the clock activity it should be investigated by these agencies. And I thought that they were doing that. At least, they made it sound like that's what they are. And I think it's similar to this public health case. Chris, I think you described it correctly, that they started off not really knowing everything. So maybe their answers are not that complete, but they're going to learn, as fast as we're learning that, it's like the chips start falling down. And
the chips are falling, no pun intended.
Yeah, we will see. We will see. I trust that we will see appropriate action. I cannot imagine that the Attorney General, if it's criminal, is not going to act on it.
So, Madam Speaker, right, we're seeing it at GPA, the port, the airport police, Guam Fire, the airport fire, Guam Police Department, right? So many different agencies. Are you concerned? Have you heard anything about the Guam legislature and anybody involved there?
I have not. See, that's another thing. So if you have and I haven't, then that would explain my inaction at this point. But I guess it doesn't hurt to make an inquiry. But no, I haven't seen any documents or been told of any of that activity going on here. But if it was, first thing I would do is refer that to the Attorney General and ask him, is this criminal, or can you do an investigation on it, right? And give him everything that I've got. And then take it from there. And if he says it's not criminal, this is within administrative, review, so then we'd have to act that way.
Stand by, guys. We're KUAM FM, Agotnia, Guam. Our viewers on KUAM TV, jump over to our Facebook Live feed, where we'll continue our interview with Speaker Therese Terlaje. Again, KUAM TV, thank you so much. My name's Chris.
I'm Sabrina.
Hasta. Adios. All right, and we're back. Speaker, I wanted to ask just to get your take on this drama with the doctors, right, as the legislative health chair. I'm sorry, I don't want to, I know you probably don't want to wade too far into this, but I feel like it's something that people are kind of talking about, and I'm sure you've seen the interviews between Dr. Cabrera, Dr. Shea. I guess what was your take on that?
Well, I don't know. I'm going to give you my perspective on that. It's just, I'm a public official. I do not like memes being made about me. I do not like criticism. Who does, right? But I did understand when I became a public official that's kind of, that's part of the job. You're going to have to withstand that, and you're going to have to accept it. And it doesn't mean you can't respond to it, and tell the facts, but it's hard to take. Families do not appreciate that. Many people will not run for office because of that. They do not want their families to have to go through that. So I think that's, it's part of the sacrifice that you make. However, I just don't like any kind of inference that we are going to try to quiet criticism, or that we are going to try to inhibit complaints about the government. Unfortunately, I think that's exactly what First Amendment's all about. It's you bring us your best complaints so that we can improve our government. And so I'm just, I got to give both of them the benefit of the doubt that if it's we're under some dire circumstances, and there's some of course personal implications as well. That's unfortunate, but I just think if you get back to just the facts and then how the government is involved, it's we have one physician who's working for the government, and we have another one who's criticizing the actions of the government. And I just think we need to just not do anything that's going to try to censor any criticism of the government at this point. I think we can respond with, facts or, corrections or whatever response we want, but I think we should not try to inhibit complaints about the government. Complaints are, if you take them in good faith, they're trying to make the government better. And I think we've seen this, we've seen things that kind of sounded outrageous, absolutely turning out to be true, in other cases. So unfortunately, yeah, I would advise against, moving forward anymore on that type of thing, and just kind of, let's just move forward, move on.
Move on, not move forward with because we had Crystal on, and she was like, "Oh, the governor's probably going to sign off on this complaint that Dr. Cabrera is going to." And you're right, Madam Speaker, I totally agree. I mean, this is a personality clash. Obviously, they have very different opinions on some very fundamental things, but I agree. I don't think that we need to be in the business of announcing publicly that we're going to go after doctors who are critical of the administration's public health policy. I mean, it's just pretty simple to me.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's sensitive right now. Not sensitive.
No, you're right. Everyone's sensitive.
No, I'm just saying they've been through a lot. Frontliners have been through a lot. I don't think they want to be criticized. That's why I was very sensitive to these allegations at the QFAC, because we're talking about frontliners here, right? And I don't want them to be criticized, but I don't want anything to be swept under the rug either. So, we're just going to have to do as fairly as we can and move forward.
What did you make of the governor's, during the State of the Island address? There was a little piece there about the Guam Memorial Hospital and how she had talked about how we basically dodged a bullet with the help of GRMC. And she talked about, using the opportunity as a learning experience to kind of make those improvements at the Guam Memorial Hospital.
Well, I think we were able to make some improvements at the hospital. I think that everyone knew the improvements were necessary at the hospital prior to the pandemic. Maybe we didn't even realize the full scope. For example, that if you need more ICU rooms, we need power supply and that type of thing to the different rooms. But everyone knew, that there were very serious capital improvement projects that needed to be completed at the hospital to make it safe for patients. Everyone knew that, we could use more nurses. Everyone knew all those things. And supposedly we're trying to improve that as we went along. And I know that prior to the pandemic, when we had heard about COVID in other places, that, part of our response was to shore up the SNU. So I know you followed that whole saga. And I'm just glad that it's finally, sounds like being done and, completed, that it's actually shored up to be an emergency response ICU unit, whatever we need, should we have to go through something like this again. And that thankfully it also can still be used for its original purpose, skilled nursing for longer term care, and that those patients are going to be moved back shortly.
Right. Yeah, that's good to hear. They, I think it was Lillian or maybe William Kando talking about the grant from FEMA, right, to for an alternate care facility, transforming the SNU into that. Yeah. But in the meantime, all the patients that were initially at the SNU were over at is it Catholic Social Services?
Yeah, Catholic CSS.
In Barragata, right? Even without a contract. So I'm not sure how much we were paying them, but hopefully they'll be able to go back to the SNU.
We did have a comment here, Madam Speaker,
They need to get back.
from Mike. He comments, how about the $10 million that didn't make it to GMH?
Absolutely. That's what I'm saying. Everyone knew there were capital improvement projects that needed to be made. We tried to appropriate. They never requested money for capital improvement projects, but we appropriated for that anyways. I was, kind of do a big thing for trying to get $10 million over to the hospital for capital improvement projects. And that money, they've never seen it yet. So they're using other funds to make the improvements that they have made. But it makes us frustrated about the pace, right? Sometimes, like, why weren't these things improved prior to this? And I just, it's perplexing for me. So you'll see that the new budget for FY22 for the hospital is pretty much zero capital improvement and zero for operations from the general fund. So they are looking to the hospital to sustain itself on revenue, and they're looking to the hospital to carry out whatever capital improvements are needed through either federal funds or its revenues. So, we haven't had a hearing on that yet, but that's something that I think we all need to look into. Now, we're fortunate on Guam. We are receiving federal funds, not just the 661 million, but we're receiving federal funds for the hospital, for public health. We're receiving federal funds for childcare. I'm very glad about that. We're receiving federal funds from the EITC refund. That's huge. That alone is really significant. And I want to acknowledge all the efforts of our congressman and our governor and everyone really who's been working for years. This is one of those issues, that I don't believe it was one person. I think it's for years, Guam has been advocating in every way possible to get, reimbursement on that earned income tax credit. Mm-hmm. And so I just want to give credit to all of those who have made that happen.
Did you catch? I was going to say, did you catch that in the address when the governor was kind of talking about the 661 million and going to lost revenue recovery, but she also said, and to build a new hospital.
Yes, I caught that.
It's like, okay, yes, I wonder how much money is gonna go toward the new hospital, because I'm looking at some of the old stories. To build a new hospital, it's like $743 million.
Yeah.
Yes, I know. That would take up the entire amount, right? So, but I have heard them throw around the number of 300 million, considering whether to spend that much on the new hospital and finance the rest in other ways. But like I said, those details have not yet been put on the table. Those we will need to examine. And I think, but I think that putting the hospital on the list is definitely worth a look, whether that's the best way to finance that hospital or not, because we have to move on it.
One other thing, did you have a public hearing this morning at 9:00? Where do you stand on Bill 56?
I'm just trying to remember which one is 56.
Bill 56 is the one by Senator Moylan that would require drug tests for those running for elected office.
Drug tests for elected office. I don't have any objection to that. I guess, it just, I don't have any objection to it. I don't, my only thing is, I don't want to be putting more parameters on people running for office when I think we need more people to run for office. We need more diversity in this legislature. We need people who've gone through some real lives and, worked some different careers. And I think the input of all of these people is going to be helpful. But drug testing, I don't have any issue with that, because I think if you are going to serve as a senator, while you are serving, you need to, be not beholden to any other interest, not beholden to any other addiction or anything like that.
Right. Yeah. Madam Speaker, do you know if it, like the drug testing? Because I haven't read the bill. Does it include marijuana?
Not sure about that, but I think that would be inconsistent with our current law.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Okay. Because just no crackheads. I'm pretty sure we're all in agree. Like, we don't want any crackhead senators. That's it. Okay.
we have it like for the legal profession, right? I always thought it was interesting. They don't kick lawyers out of the bar if you suffer an addiction, but they've really ramped up, across the nation programs to get to help you if you are addicted. And I think we need to do that across Guam. And instead of well, I just think we need to continue and focus our efforts on that. Our addiction problems are huge. They are the cause of crime, and it's proven, and we cannot deny that. And the drugs continue to come in, and all of that. We've got to solve that. And I really, so for this term, we've got a year and about 9 months left. And I think we need to make a dent in that. We cannot overlook that. That's what I'm hoping more than anything else when it comes to drugs, that's what we are going to take care of. Get more canine units, get these more inspections at the airport, more regular inspections at the port, and continue with the inspections at the Postal Service. And the rehab, of course. I know you guys have talked about this, and I want to thank you. You've done a really great job of, increasing awareness, I think, across Guam about the availability of rehab at behavioral health and the expansion of their programs. Thank you.
Well, the governor, in her address, we're seeing a 15% decrease in overall reported crimes compared to 2019. The 10 pounds of meth confiscated was in 2020, I think, last year.
Yes, so of course there's been some confiscation of meth, which is fantastic. But I just think if you consider the availability of meth as well, it's we should not celebrate. We have to really crack down on that. And this thing about crime, I'm going to look at the data if I can find it as to where she gets the statistics. However, and they might be right. But I'm just going to base it on my own personal experience. We all belong to these neighborhood chats on WhatsApp. And for the very beginning of the pandemic, when they, put lockdown orders, everyone has to stay home, I think I did not see much talk about, home invasions or stealing from property for a couple months. But definitely, you cannot say that now. We've had horrific crime in the news. We've seen terrible things happen, and we are seeing theft, really prevalent, I think. And so, I don't know. I would say right now, those statistics might not reflect what we are experiencing right now. They might, reflect something we went through, some, downturn for a couple months at the most. But I don't think that's what we're experiencing right now. I'm guessing, of course, I'm speculating. I don't have the data in front of me. I'd like to see that.
Yeah, I felt like it was a little disingenuous for them to throw out some. These statistics, like you said, might have been what was happening when we were locked down and staying home, but definitely not what we've seen since the easing of restrictions in the latter part of last year. Madam Speaker, man, I wanted to, I don't know if as the oversight of public health, but we had gotten a tip about the public health lab, which is accredited under the CLIA, but we're hearing that they don't have a pathologist, which would be a violation of their accreditation. Have you heard anything about the former pathologist whose contract was not renewed by public health?
I can't recall hearing anything about that, Chris, but I will look into it. Of course, we cannot afford to lose our accreditation right now, so we'll see. I don't know.
Right. I'll forward you the info, Madam Speaker.
Thank you.
Great.
And can I just say, I want to give credit to all the news. I really think what we've been through for the past year, and I don't want to, sound like I'm just catering to you all, but
that's fine.
I've thought about it so much, like who deserves credit, for what we've been through and how we got through it. And I just have to say, the people of Guam deserve credit for doing it. You all of you in the media really deserve credit for keeping us informed. And I'm telling you, it's astonishing to me what I learned from the radio that I cannot learn even in my position as speaker. It's infuriating, and it's I just don't think it's right. And it highlights for me every day that these things are, something's wrong if we can't get prompt information or we're being kept out of the loop. So,
well, Madam Speaker, I just want to counter that by saying that, we have a job to do. And I want to draw a parallel between what you had said about we're all in these neighborhood chat groups, right? We're all in these neighborhood chat groups because there aren't enough police officers out there to protect us, because it looks like it's just not a priority for the administration. So across the board, people in the villages step up and they fill in these gaps in services that aren't being provided by the government. And I kind of feel like, I don't know, you agree, but I feel like we also have had to step up because there just hasn't been transparency. There hasn't been accountability. And so I take it serious. I'm like, man, if something's going on and people don't know about it, then we're going to do our best to get the info. And I mean, it is unfortunate that a lot of times we get it before people who should be getting it first, like senators or, mayors or just the people of Guam in general. So, I mean, it's unfortunate, Madam Speaker, but it is what it is. And I feel like we have stepped up, and I'm proud to say that, gosh, there's a lot of stuff that we've uncovered during this pandemic. And, we take it serious. And again, it's just unfortunate that, you've had to introduce bills to call for transparency.
Yeah.
I don't understand. It's crazy.
Don't you think it's really something incredible about Guam? The people are resourceful. I love it. They have found a way.
We will find a way.
Yes. If they run into a wall on one side, they're going to find another way. They're going to get that information out. And I love it. I love living here because I love that type of community. It's kind of like nobody just said, oh, well, no, they didn't. They totally stepped up their game too. And they found other ways to get what they knew out there. And I appreciate, I just got called late last night. I think it was after 10:30. Somebody's calling me about the overtime at public health not yet being paid, or it was paid up until December, but not paid past December yet. And I'm telling you, this kind of thing, they tell you it's going to be taken care of and it's not yet. I'm, going to have to follow up again on that. But it's kind of like, if we can all just do our jobs and, we can grow bigger things and better things for Guam, but to keep on, following up whether what's required by law is actually done, it just slows us all down. So I'm just going to ask everybody, we're all in this together. So let's just act like that right now.
Yeah, and also to the classified employees, because we don't find things out from the government unless people who are in positions to tell us. And a lot of these people, they give information like the one, what would you get, what we get, at the risk of losing their jobs or being targeted.
They're not supposed to be worried, right? We're supposed to have this open system. You're classified already. But no, they're very worried, very, very worried. Yeah, unfortunately. So, so that's, to give some credit to Senator Brown, that's why senators play a role, because if you are the person that people can go to, I want to give her credit for that people are going to her, people come to us. So I just think, embrace that role, keep it up, and we've all got different roles, and we are also going to have to be resourceful to get these things addressed.
Well, we'd love to keep you on and keep heaping praise on us, but I think we both got things to do here. So thank you, Speaker.
Thanks, Speaker.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
You too. Take
All
care.
Right.
You're so funny.
What? And everybody
Stop
needs a
us
little
more.
positive reinforcement on here. I know, but what she said about the people of Guam, damn straight, they are resourceful. When they hit a wall, we're going under, we're going over, we're going through if we have to. It's 8:21, guys. We'll take a really quick break and do a couple things. And then on the way, we have the new czar of permitting for the government of Guam. He does. He's a former governor and a two-term governor and a one-term czar. So we'll get former governor and GVB president, Carl Gutierrez.